Ingrid Partenkirchner, very warm welcome to the head of DC-DVET. Please, the floor is yours, and I would really invite you to introduce to us the main concepts of importance in representing the voice of the employer and the private sector.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lisa, and hello, everybody. Nice to see so many faces, new faces, and some known faces and names in the chat. Lisa, can you move on to the next slide, please? Yes. Thanks for the opportunity again to deliver the keynote, and I will put here start my watch as well, so to be on time. Today's topic is representing the voice of the employers. So the question is, how do we come from individual company interests to sector positions, and why should we do this? So if we go to the next slide, please, maybe you can remember some of these aspects mentioned here, because it's quite, it links to what we talked about last time. So what is the challenge that we have in many projects and in many different contexts? And maybe you find some that say, okay, this also applies to my context. In many cases, we have, let's say, a weak representativeness of chambers and associations. We have informal consultation, like, okay, the ministry wants to update the curricula, what should I tell them? And I call let's say, my best friends and ask them. So this would be more an individual opinion. So we come from individual opinions from, let's say, well-positioned companies that are very active, maybe in the as directives of the chambers or associations. Sometimes it's the founders, sometimes it's the very well-known and even politically active company leaders who have a strong voice there. We have a project-based cooperation, meaning that we just react because of a project is asking for this, and we're really focusing there and who would fit in there. In many cases, or in some cases, we're also companies represented by meso-level institutions are just asked occasionally, and maybe even as an alibi to, okay, we asked the private sector what we need, so we asked 2-3 people. I'm exaggerating, of course, but what they think, and with this the consultation process is done. Or we have this symbolic representation, like, yeah, please come sit in. But what we have heard last time already, especially in dual VET, we need shared responsibility, and this can only be done if the voices of the companies are taken in seriously and also in a processed way. So that's why it is important to talk about this topic, because what we want is really a representative voice of the private sector or the companies with good credibility. So that's why we have to find ways to collect these data and gather the different opinions there. And only if we can achieve this, there will be also the ownership. If you feel like, okay, my voice is listened to, my voice is important, and my voice is taken into consideration. And this does not mean that everybody fulfills what I want, but then I will show ownership in this dual VET approach as well. So it also helps to raise commitment, because this is also a common problem that we have, and with this a limited impact. So we really want the private sector to be also in the driver's seat and really co-create, co-govern, co-decide as a really important actor in dual VT. That's why, and with this, we please jump to the next one, where to solve these common problems, what we need is a structured and really evidence-based development of sector positions. So we want to step away from individuals and very strong individual voices of some maybe leading companies or very active or very well connected or those with the good relationships, because we as business associations, chambers, or other business forums, we want to represent them. So that's why we have to move away from this step, or this point number one here, companies with their individual needs and challenges, which is absolutely valid, but collect data to really get the full picture of the skills that are needed. And that's why we have different methods that I will explain in a minute. And we have to analyze this data and prioritize to really identify the skills shortages that we face in the whole sector, the future needs, the competency gaps, and to get consensus on, okay, what should our sector position be like, and what are our common priorities. So to develop a sector position, as it's mentioned here in point number 5, once we have this with the consensus built, then we can go on and if I say we as a business association or chamber, I'm putting myself in the shoes of one, really influence the policy dialogue, the curricula, the occupational standards, the qualifications, the systems. And this is what we mentioned last time as co-governing and co-decision making. And especially in dual VET, we also decide on what does this mean if we talk about a dual VET curriculum? What is the school base responsible for? And what should our companies be responsible for, and what should they train? So this is a very, very important part. And in this sense, as we already mentioned several times, I mean, dual VET is a very intense and good example of co-governing. So that's why this is why we need it, and we need it on an evidence base to get the credibility that we need. And what you can see on this slide is there are different methods how we can really collect the data and analyze the data. And I will not go into the details, but what you can see is we have like more the qualitative methods that you can see here as tracer studies, employer surveys, focus groups, Delphi methods, and foresight methods. If you're interested, we can dive deeper, and we also have a recording on these different methodologies on our website, and we will share the link with you. And you have on the left-hand side the more quantitative data, so really to gather these different, let's say, data and insights and numbers and facts for big data and for forecasting, which with AI today is easier than it was before. But what I want to draw your attention to is this right column saying, thank you, Lisa. I already noticed that the forecasting, don't be too detailed. So don't expect or try to achieve really precise numbers, because we are talking about tendencies and trends, and no occupation and no forecast is that exact that you really can get exact numbers, but you can get ranges. And don't rely on just one method. So find a mix of different methods, and in really to set up this process, at the right-hand side, you can see some questions that you have to ask yourself. So what do I want to know? Do I want to know something about the skills or the occupations, which is different? at what level? Do I want it on for the whole labor market? Do I want it just for a specific sector? What information is already available? What are the gaps that we have to really fill in and collect the data? And what is your budget and what is your timeline? So the best way to do it is to have a broad mix of different methods, not to rely on one. And which one to choose, you should first go through these questions that you can see in this right-hand side column. And with this, I jump to my last slide, and then maybe we can dive deeper. When it's done, this whole collection, and you have applied all your methods and you have your analysis, this is where you feed in now on multi-stakeholder platforms. You have one example here, which could be a sector skills body or whatever the forum is that you have in your context, but usually this is a negotiation among different stakeholders like the business associations. This is your role here really to represent the employers in the discussions, to translate the company needs into these recommendations. And you negotiate with others like the government, trade unions, experts, the TVET providers, training institutions. So this is why you should have really evidence, and you will see if you have evidence, and even if it's not, let's say, the full-fledged analysis there, but when you have evidence, you make your position a lot stronger, and that's why this is a recommendation to really work on this and apply different methods. How this could be done, we will hear it in the next examples. And with this, I hand back to Lisa. Thank you.
Great. So thanks a lot once again for the invitation. It's very good to see very familiar faces, and more or less we know each other, and we are working jointly, let's say, in the past with DC Dual Vet about the activities that we have in Macedonia. So today we will present a little bit about, currently it was a project implemented by SDC. It was Education for Employment project, very successful program from SDC, which the idea was to implement the dual education within the national education system. And currently, after almost 10 years of implementation, we have the dual education in the system. Mainly Natasha and I were the experts from different sides. We were the experts that pushed the whole system in order to run in terms of the dual education, mostly from the side of the private sector. So today we have very specific part to discuss about, and it is about the future skills analysis. Also, the government and the ministries wanted to have some kind of prediction, because when the qualification needs to be taught, it requires a lot of time. So that's why we wanted a little bit to further the system and to improve it in terms of skills analysis. What have we done? First, the chamber started to make the methodologies to make the future skills analysis on their own, but it was pity that it was not acceptable by the Ministry of Education and also from the government. So we needed to reshape the whole structure in the system in order that predictions and that future skills analysis to be accepted by the state. So that's how the Economic Chamber of North Macedonia, supported by the project, we started to develop the totally new system of future skills analysis, and it started jointly. The idea started within the Economic Chamber, but that's how we came in cooperation with the State Statistical Office and with the Employment Service Agency. Why we needed the the three very big institutions in the country? Because we wanted the State Statistical Office to approve that from the methodological perspective, it is correct, the analysis. That's how, if we have a stamp, let's say, from the State Statistical Office, it means that the analysis is a very good and very solid basis for the future skills prediction. How it worked, that was the little bit the history and how we work. The State Statistical Office made the questionnaire in order to have a quantitative base, and that was the idea. We have the quantitative base out of that questionnaire that was made by the State Statistical Office jointly with the companies. That was all the time. Then we have qualitative validation out of the information that we received from the companies, and after that we made, let's say, based on qualitative and quantitative data, we made the final analysis. When it comes to the quantitative, it was how the process was. The process was started from the association, let's say from the sectoral association, and the sectoral association was very much engaged in engaging the companies from the association to answer the question. After that, Natasha and the team within the economic chamber took over, which give their best knowledge in terms of qualitative validation of the results. So what was the problem during that process? When we have quantitative data, there was not very up to date. So it means that the companies were not aware that in 3 to 5 years, what will change within their way of work. Still, I'm telling that with note, because we are developing economy. So still we need a little bit more boost. And our companies are not the ones that make projections for 3, 5, 10 years. So it's more mostly it's on a daily business. After that, let's go how it was made. Already I described that the questionnaires were primarily collected by the heads of the association. So the process was via email, and the entire process takes approximately 30 days. So 2 weeks data collection and 2 weeks for data processing. Maybe these 30 days for some for bigger economies, very let's say short period, due to the number of data that they will receive. But in Macedonian economy, we think that it is relevant to have it enough representativeness out of each sector. So it means also by the statistical point of view, it was representative. So when it was the point when the representativeness of the sector was reached, so the let's say the data collection stopped. And after that, it happened after the data collection came the validation, and those 2 weeks after that are the really validation of the data. It is very similar to the Macedonian economy. It's very simple in Macedonian economy. We don't have like 10 sectors which are very much developed. We have three plus 2 sectors which are very much developed. And mostly of them, the most developed sectors are the ones with the foreign investors and the ones who make the biggest export of the country. And luckily, those are the companies which are foreign investors and come from outside. Why I emphasize this? Because the companies coming from outside, mostly Germany and other European countries, they came with a mindset. Mindset means that they are knowledgeable in their companies, in their mother companies, how they are doing the all methodology and skills forecasting. So they were prepared to fulfill the questionnaire. So that was and we have year by year improvement in the data collection. So that was very exceptional. We anchored the best practices, we try also to promote the best practices, which was mostly German companies in the country. And that's how the other companies find out. They were presenting the whole story, why it's important to answer the questionnaire, etc. And that's how we have a lot of engagement from the companies.
I want to add that we have some issues with the small company because they have enough experience about this, and like a chamber, we organize some workshop how to fulfill the questionnaire and what is important to fulfill the questionnaire. Some of small and media company we put the mail about the questionnaire and call with telephone communication and push them for to fulfill the questionnaire.
That's how, not just approve what I said. It was very important to have the, let's say, the engagement from the other side. Thanks for the contribution. So how the chambers implemented the dual vet today? The chamber in the system are very crucial role, has very crucial role in Macedonian vet, the dual, especially dual vet system. They made the company verification, they made a mentor certification, matchmaking, it's very important. But also they have a digital platform, which is integrated platform that tries to match the employers who give the digital, who provide the dual training, and also the schools, and on the other side, the companies. Why we are pushing that digital platform currently and promoting? Because we are expecting that all of those activities that we previously mentioned with the skills forecast, it will be done through that platform. So we will have constant, maybe not every day, but every second quarter or twice per year, we will have update of the needed skills and qualifications. So that's the idea. That's how the last year we are promoting that digital platform. Normally, there are a lot of issues about the digital platform because in our state, the chamber, it's not a state body. The chamber is a private institution, and we have a problem with the personal data, etc. So a lot of students need to give the personal data. That is the issue.
Yeah, that's always sensitive. Sorry to interrupt,
Exactly.
Boris, but
Super.
could you give the final messages of your presentation?
Yes, and we came to the final messages. What it is? The chamber is a key actor in the advocacy, but in order to be a key advocate for dual education, it must have the credibility. So how we boost the credibility? Through the proper way of skills forecast, because the chamber was in a hot seat discussing with the state representatives and explaining how the methodology is done in order to be accepted by them. So that's how we boost, because of the quality, we boost the credibility of the chamber. And now it's very easy because the chamber in Macedonia is accepted as the credible institution in the dual vet. Now we don't have a problem with the advocacy, because when the chamber starts to advocate for something, it is 100% sure that is based on the previous analysis. We wanted to reach that level in the chamber, which requires a lot of capacity development in the last decade, but we reached to that goal. That's all from my end.
Our second case will be presented by Maria Jose Hernandez, Director of Sustainability and Local Development of the Chamber of Industry and Production of Quito in Ecuador. So this second case takes us to a very different context, but maybe a very similar lesson in the end. Instead of looking at a national approach, this time we will look on micro level, and we will see how a chamber in Ecuador worked together with tourism companies to jointly develop a high quality dual training program, and therefore how to get from an individual need from one company regarding skills training to the needs of a whole group, systematizing in a curricula and training staff on demand, like based on what specifically the companies need. So let's look at this micro level experience. Maria Jose, thank you for being here. The floor is yours. You can share your presentation now.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me and invite share with you like the project that we developed together with the chambers. Can you
we can see the presentation. Perfect. Yes, and now perfect. Also in full screen.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, I'm going to talk about like the dual training tailor-made for tourist operators in Galapagos. So we represent in Galapagos the 8 biggest companies in the island. So for a context and to be in the same line, Galapagos is an island that are located like 1,000 kilometers from the main coast, from the continent. So that gives us different problematics that we need to work on, and that's why we develop this specific project. In Galapagos, the law, it's different from the continent. So the law impacts directly on the labor market, because you must, the companies that operate in Galapagos must have 80% of local people employed, and you only take 20% from the continent. And to like the tourists that will respond, of like the companies that are